Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show. I'm so glad you're here, as I always am. I want to start with a statistic that you may or may not know, that 1 in 4 children in the U.S. grows up without a father in the home. And 80% of single-parent homes are headed up by mothers. And another thing we don't talk about is, even though that statistic might not be so surprising, but there are millions of other kids who might have had dads. They might have been physically there, present, but emotionally absent. Or what about the ones who are physically there and abusive, or addicted, or sporadic, or neglectful, or had all their own problems, or focused on themselves, or narcissistic? Oh my God. So what I'm talking about in honor of Father's Day is how father wounds, because I am a gal with a father wound, how they impact our relationships, our self-worth, and our success. I'm going to be busting some myths, and I'm also going to give you 5 things that you can do on Father's Day, a new way of celebrating it if you yourself have a father wound. So before we get into it, if you happen to be new to my YouTube channel, please make sure that you are subscribed, because apparently a lot of you are not subscribed, but I really want you to be. I love all your comments. You guys know I read everything. So just make sure you hit the bell icon also so that you get notified when I roll out new stuff, which is every Tuesday and every Thursday. Yeah, that's it. I'm psyched you're here. Let's get into the Father's Day grind, shall we? I think we shall. So maybe that didn't surprise you, that statistic. The 1 in 4 children grows up without a father. But the other part of it, that does not account for all the women in particular. I mean, of course, men too, but I mostly talk about women who have father wounds, right? Because fatherlessness is not always about missing people. Sometimes it's about missing connection, which is what I experienced in my own life, right? You might have a dad who was there. With my father, it was more like after work and on weekends is when he was home because he worked a lot. But even when he was there, he was never really there. And really, we were just taught to avoid him at all costs, which I did. The moment he came into a room, we were literally like cockroaches when the light went on. We were like, bye. And we wouldn't be rude because we were, raised to be respectful. But we were like, okay, you're taking over the TV now? See ya. So what does Father's Day feel like, right? When either there's no father to call, or if you, like me, you'd be like down the aisles of all the, the card stores, just standing for like days, because literally there was not one thing that I looked at that made sense. You were there. You taught me everything. You took me fishing. What? If there was a card that said, I think it's a world record that we've probably exchanged 50 words in my whole 13 years, because that was when my parents got divorced. It was when I was 13. That would have been the card that I bought. How is it possible? That seems like a world record that I think we might have exchanged, and I'm not kidding. Like, I'm literally not exaggerating. So that affects you. That affected me as a child, as a teenager, and as a woman in my life. Because on Father's Day, not every daughter is celebrating, right? Some are scrolling past these heartfelt tributes that you see online, and you're like, I'm definitely the girl, and you guys may identify with this, that, any commercial or movie or show where there's sweetness between a father and a daughter, I'm immediately bawling my eyes out. It's so painful. It's touching, right? But it's also painful. And I know that there's many of you out there that have on Father's Day, you're going to be like gritting your teeth through like barbecues and brunches, playing the role like, oh, but silently sort of grieving like what you actually never were able to create with your own father. So for a lot of women in particular, Father's Day is not a celebration. It's sort of like a mirror that reflects the absence, it could be abuse, could be abandonment, whatever it is that didn't work. It can also be a trigger, right, for questions that we never got answered. I mean, my father is deceased. I don't know about you guys. And, those wounds, I took years in therapy after my father died. I mean, I felt like I healed a lot of it while he was still alive, thank God. But there was still so much more to go. And I think that we have to just be on the same page about what it means to have a father wound, right? A father's absence does not define your worth, right? Or a father's inability to see your worth, let's say, does not define your worth, right? It can shape your resilience, which it sure did for me, your strength, your story, without a doubt. So let's dive into how does this impact our relationships, self-worth, and success? Well, a lot of fatherless daughters develop hyper-independence as a survival strategy. I sure did, which can sabotage intimacy later, right? Because where's the mutuality when you have this hyper-independence? It took me years to let anybody in, to let, especially a man, forget it. I never felt like I could or should count on a man. It was always like, have a plan B. I mean, literally, my mother said to my face, make your own money, get an education, so that maybe for you, love can be a choice and not a need. Because my mother got pregnant in college, so her freshman year literally worked at a factory for 2 years to save money to go to college. It's like such a depressing story, even though she's amazing. She's still alive. But she really did not want me following in her footsteps. And she did everything in her power to give me the freedom to not feel compelled to get married young. She was like, no, you don't have to. Please don't. That created for me a lot of choice, and I didn't get married till I was in my mid-30s. Anyway, I digress. Going back to that hyper-independence that can happen. And without paternal affirmation, right, we can have this tendency to seek external validation in unhealthy ways, right? It can be dating patterns. It can be overachievement, perfectionism, people-pleasing. We know all those things, right? Because a lot of HFCs, a lot of high-functioning codependents have father or mother wounds, but father wounds are in particularly common for women who identify as high-functioning codependent. Also, what can happen when we have a father wound is there can be this internal sort of glass ceiling, right? Where we feel like we have to do things alone, like it has to be me is one of our affirmations. We don't really trust other people to do things or do them right. But what it does is it blocks our ability to collaborate with others because we don't think they're going to do it right. It can also block trusting in relationships, and it can even block you from getting money, like moving on to something better because of this, I have to do it all alone. Because really, no great leader does it all alone, right? We know people who are massively successful have mastered the art of delegation and of collaboration, which is important. So I want to bust some of the myths around having a father wound, right? We hear this, all this conversation about forgiveness or sort of just getting over it, like out in the zeitgeist. People who are not therapists saying stupid like he did his best, which I gotta just say, that is not a hall pass for neglect or abandonment, right? Emotional abuse. I feel like I know, being a therapist, that we can create our own closure. We don't need them. We don't need contact for there to actually be closure. I think that forgiveness so much of the time, you guys know, if you know my work, I'm not into forgiveness, which sounds bad, but I'm not. I am into you not being in resentment prison for sure, right? So letting yourself out of resentment prison would be the way that I say it. And I feel like there's something valuable in doing that. Right? Because you don't have to reconcile. If you've got no contact with a father figure or a father, like it's not necessary to be reconciled, right? You can liberate yourself from the ties that bind you. And I also feel like people say this other stupid about time healing all wounds, and it just doesn't. Intentional work, tending to your injuries, integrating your experiences, all of that absolutely heals, meaning we heal our wounds. But avoiding dealing with it just delays the pain of it, right? It doesn't just go away. And why so many successful women, for sure, still carry this, a lot of it is invisible grief according to me. Like I can really see it because we achieve. So achievement in some way becomes this protective mechanism. It's almost like achievement as armor, let's say, right? Success is used to prove our worth in the absence of a paternal validation, let's say. And that certainly was true for me. And then you also then have the other end of the coin, which is many high-performing women secretly are so afraid of like being too much, right? Or not enough, right? And again, there's either, we might have heard that, either one in our young life. A lot of times with an absent father, we just make up our own stories about why they're absent. Sometimes we make up stories that make their absence less painful, right? If any of you read any of my books, I had a story that my father, I was his fourth daughter, and I had a story that he really wanted a son, and that he wished I was a son. So that's why he wasn't involved with me, is that he was disappointed. And my mother was like, that's really not true. I mean, like when I got older, she was like, Tara, I don't think he would have been interested in sons either, actually. And yet it was like there was something about me telling myself a story of being the wrong gender that somehow made his rejection and his neglect like less personal, less bad. I was like, oh, that's the reason. And apparently the answer is nope, that was not the reason. And I know I'm not the only person who like made up stories to make sense, because this is also what the human brain does. But then you have the experiences of this grief of what we didn't get resurfaces during milestone experiences like weddings or childbirth, career wins, moments where a father's presence, right, is supposed to sort of matter in life. We can feel that lack. But when we integrate the father wound, it's like we may always feel a little tender, but it's not as painful. So I feel like as a culture, like we need to be shifting this Father's Day narrative to include healing, right? Normalize the conversation around absent, toxic, or emotionally unavailable fathers, right? Not every story is a f***ing Hallmark card, as we know. So create space for father figures, right? Mentors, uncles, mothers who played both roles, like who stepped up in your life, right? We can practice intentional healing rituals, like writing an unsent letter to your father to express what was never said, right? I love a ritual moment, people. I love to burn things. There is something that can be so powerful about talking about what you never had a chance to talk about, saying all the things, going through what were the peak sort of bad experiences or disappointing experiences, because you know exactly what they are. I could tell you mine right now. I'm not going to, but I could, right? Because they're always like close in our minds. They just don't hurt as much when you integrate them. So you write that, have a friend or someone who is not going to give you their opinion, and you're going to be specific that you're not looking for input. You just want some compassionate witnessing. And then after you read it to that person that you really trust, it could be a therapist, it could be a friend, then I want you to go outside somewhere safe, do not do it in your house, and just burn it. And feel the feelings of releasing that resentment and that anger, knowing that it's you who benefits, right? If I were to say anything conclusively about forgiveness, according to Terri Cole, is that forgiveness is for the mother effing forgiver. It just is. And I think that I always frame it as resentment prison, because the other one is so forgiveness has been co-opted by religious stuff and all of that stuff. So we don't want that. Another thing that you can do is use mirror work to affirm your own worth, right? This is a part of reparenting, the part of you that might still need it. I love taking dry erase markers and writing on mirrors. I do it in my bedroom and I do it in my bathroom. I just write love notes to myself about anything that I might be struggling about, anything that might be hurting. If I'm feeling some kind of way about my body, I'll write, I love your shape. If I'm feeling I don't know, less than about something, I'll just write, "You're enough. You've always been enough with a heart, and I love you." Because I do, but there's something about these sweet reminders that it really is this active reparenting that is so much more powerful than you might think. So I'm going to invite you to go get a set of multicolored dry erase markers because they come off super easy. And, when I do retreats, I always bring them and we write on every space that we can. We write in every hotel room. We write in every mirror, in every bathroom, because we need to remember how sacred we are, how worthy we are, how lovable we are. And we get to decide, right? We're not kids anymore. And no, it sucked. If you, like me, had a disappointing father experience, then I love you. I see you. I got you. And we can become the good father to ourselves that we never had. We really can. Right? And no, we can't go back. As Anne Lamott says, I want to find that exact quote, but it's like, I think she says, like, forgiveness is giving up on having a better childhood, something like that. Like, so we know we can't get in a time machine. So we're not going to change it in that way. But rest assured that you are the determiner of your value. And trust me when I say that you were born worthy simply by virtue of being alive. You don't have to do anything, right? Look at how we treat babies. I don't expect a baby to twist themselves up or make me dinner to be worthy of my love and adoration. Do you? Of course not. You are that baby. You don't have to do anything to be worthy. You already are. And another thing that I want to suggest is setting boundaries around your own emotional expectation on Father's Day, right? Even if it means skipping something or not going or skipping the group text or whatever it is, like whatever you need to do, and make sure that you go and get the guide, because I have 5 ideas for you to do something interesting, innovative, and different on Father's Day, which I think you'll love. I also wanted to talk about boundaries because Boundary Boot Camp is coming up. I would love for you to join us. Go to terricole.com/boundary bootcamp. All the links will be in the show notes. We are starting soon. And one of the biggest fallouts from having a father wound is having disordered boundaries, because we never learned how to do it right. And in having a father wound, we weren't sure we were allowed to have good boundaries. So this is my favorite course to teach, one of, and it's one of my signature courses. I've been teaching it since 2015. I change it and make it better every single year. I'm super proud of it. It is so effective, you guys. So if you want help becoming a boundary boss, becoming fluent in boundaries, being a better communicator, having more self-worth, more self-esteem, please join us on the inside of Boundary Bootcamp 2025. I would super love to have you. And let me know if you try any of the ideas that I give you in the guide for a new and innovative Father's Day. Also know this, you guys, you are not alone. You have nothing to be ashamed about. I see you, I love you, and I got you. I really, really do. So I hope that this episode soothed your soul a little bit. And as always, take care of you.